Welcome to Pinstripe Podcast, episode 1, officially. We are,
Absolutely.
I'm Ryan,
Andrew here.
and we're going to recap the Boston series, look at the upcoming series against the Royals, and discuss some rosters, lineup, pitching options, some injuries, and potential returns.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. How you feeling? I'm a little
Feeling
upset. I'm not
great.
gonna lie.
I'm upset about the last series, but I'm feeling great going into the next, and
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
that pissed me off too, man. Listen, first of all, this guy Dobbins, all right, goes out here
Yeah,
talk
right.
shit. Jazz response,
Jazz clap back.
doesn't back it up. Bad look for us. Um,
You know,
not gonna overreact though. It's July 7th, 8th, and the 9th of baseball, so
we'll get
we'll get
into
him in Fenway.
the results of that
Yeah.
game 3.
Um, yeah. So I mean, we'll kind of start it off. I mean, game one. A lot of hype around this one. Friday Night Baseball, Yankee Stadium. Ended up winning that one 9-6. First inning was, for us, just absolutely, I mean, what you could dream for in the first inning,
Incredible, incredible.
especially facing off, against Bueller, who the last time he stepped on that mound, he was celebrating the World Series, striking Alex Verdugo out. Yuck. Um, just jumping on him, just breaking off
Uh,
for five
love to
runs.
see love to see
Um,
the first two batters get on. Belly and Goldie unfortunately couldn't get it done, but then we had some 2-out action.
yeah, 2 outs, 2 strikes too. Jazz, 2 out, 3-run homer on a breaking ball low. Get that torpedo action there. Um, kind of really helped him out there, dead center. Uh, that was big. Crowd was going nuts. And then 2 batters later, Volpe again, torpedo action, 2 out,
Lo-
2-run homer.
Love to
Uh,
see the Jazz and Volpe action.
yeah,
Jazz said it. Best two man in the game. Not
on
my
and
words,
off,
but
on and off the field, on and
yeah.
off.
Well, but
um,
I love to see some action from the two of them.
Yeah, it's great. It's good up the middle. Even though I know Jazz been playing third too, but see what kind of happens with that. Um, but Volpe, I thought his homer was impressive. See, obviously, all the talk has been with Volpe. Um, what kind of hitter, is he going to be? He's kind of everyone feels like he's stuck in between. Is he going to be that kind of contact, get on base guy, or does he try to be a power hitter? And listen, playing at Yankee Stadium, his swing, when he's going right, it's kind of in the same sense as LeMahieu. When he's going right, when he's swinging the ball opposite field, inside out to right field, and just focusing that way, he's a strong kid, so he has plenty of power to be able to put the ball out the other way. Um, and then he likes to pull the ball, so when he gets those inside pitches, he can just turn on it. I don't think that's his problem. I think he's just got to focus on getting on base, line drives, right field, right center. I mean, that's the key to success. That's where it starts. Obviously, every hitting coach will tell you that. But so I thought he barreled that ball up right field. I thought that was a really good looking shot.
Yeah,
Um,
just
so
just to touch on Volpe as a whole throughout the season. He was started off pretty hot, and then slowed down a bit, and there were talks of you know trade him. He's not going to be the kid we thought he was, and I think ever since that talk has been thrown around, he's been producing. He's not the best shortstop in the league. He's not the best hitter in the league. We have that one too, but um, you know, Volpe, he's held his own since all that talk. So um, I like what he's been doing.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the whole obviously we're talking about a Yankee shortstop, so everyone wants to feed into the guy that's replacing Jeter. Listen, I think everyone felt kind of in a similar sense when Didi came in. Didi, all-time favorite Yankee for me personally. You got to also think about too when Didi first got there. I mean, he was immediately after Jeter, so it was like, how does this guy replace Jeter? And Didi was great for us in the 6 years he was here. I mean, 5 years around there, but and look how much everyone misses him now. He was a fan favorite. But I think in the sense of obviously think about a Yankee shortstop, so you're thinking about replacing Derek Jeter. And obviously the homegrown, get the pictures. He met Jeter when he was a kid. So I think that stuff too, it puts a lot of pressure on him. But I think
for sure.
when he's easygoing and just he plays free. I mean, obviously we know what he's got defensively. His glove is always going to be there, and I think that's the biggest thing. I think honestly, when he first came up, I think that was the question mark people had. Can he play shortstop? He's not your prototypical shortstop size.
Right. And
People
even
talk
even
about
he
sliding him
said
to second. You know,
even he said when he was playing at Del Barton High School, he wasn't planning on getting drafted. Scouts were there for Leiter. They
hmm
weren't there for him, and he said Leiter was really the only reason that he got drafted. But you see, he's 24-year-old kid from Jersey who's producing in the Bronx. That's exactly what you want to see. Now, is it Jeter numbers? No, but he's 24. He has time to grow. He has time to build, and I think he's held his own in the past couple seasons.
yeah, it's just been for him. Really, I think the big story has just been the consistency of what he's doing because he shows the flashes, especially last year. He had that stretch, and I think it was May when he was leading off in front of Soto and Judge, and through like 2 months of the season, he was hitting 330s. And we were like, can he sustain this? If he can sustain this hitting in front of Judge and Soto, we were like, this offense is going to be all time. And then obviously hit the rock. And so he gets into those slumps and he gets into the high points. So if really, obviously, you're not going to be, he's not going to be the top guy. I just don't see it. But realistically, I think for him, as long as he just stays in consistent mold and like through these hot stretches that we see, he's not putting up crazy numbers, but he's putting up productive for our offense. So I feel like if he can just find the consistency model of what he's doing right now and stretch that out for multiple months at a time, I mean, he's going to continue. He can be a top 10 shortstop in the majors. I don't really
Totally,
see, I don't see why he can't, especially with the glove. Um,
totally agree.
but, that's just a little bit how I feel with Volpe there. And just, kind of touching up, including Volpe, got hit in the elbow in game one, too, and get the notification he left with a stiffy. No, I don't really know.
I mean,
Um, I don't
taken
know.
for
I don't
multiple
know.
reasons.
I don't know who reported that.
We'll
I
leave that up
thought
to
that
the
was a good
media.
idea, but Peraza came in and replaced him, so that was a little worrisome. Eventually, when we found out he wasn't starting, second game, um, Judge and Jazz both 3 hits. That was epic. Um, did know every starter in the lineup did record a hit in game one. So that was pretty nice to see up and down consistency with the lineup, which I feel like this year our lineup is a lot longer than it was last year. Obviously, we were so top heavy. This year, I feel it, and it's that whole Plan B method with not bringing back Soto, which we've seen, kind of career starts for Rice, for Grisham. Uh, Dominguez has been kind of up and down a little bit, but these other guys just extending the lineup. It's going to play come October. Um, just pitchers not being able to relax after the number 5 hitter is going to be huge. So I think up and down the lineup, they did great. Game one, Warren looked really good for the first 5 innings. Leads all rookies in strikeouts so far this year. Kind of quietly having a good year because he's had some kind of barn burners mixed in with his good starts. Did struggle in the sixth, gave up a couple walks, a couple of runs, kind of allowed them crawl back into the game. But past that, after that sixth inning, uh, one thing that's been kind of consistent is the back end of the bullpen, even with Weaver now out. Fernando Cruz, Johnny Lasagna, happy to have him back.
Lasagna,
Johnny
Los.
Lasagna. Devin Williams threw the ball really well. They locked it down. Final 3 frames. You know, Devin picked up his
Love
seventh save.
love when he's producing. It's not he's not as great as we thought he would be coming in, but he's held his own since he got that setup guy, and then came back once Weaver was injured. So
Yeah,
it'll take time for him to get used to the environment, and but like you said, it's only June 9th, so we'll see where he goes from here.
yeah, absolutely. I think with Williams coming over, obviously the transition, especially coming from Milwaukee, coming to pitch in New York, he was a confident guy to begin with. But I think, especially being the closer of the Yankees, again, kind of plays into that. We're talking about the closer of the Yankees. You immediately think of Mo.
Mo, right?
You know, even with Chapman in between, I know how people feel about Chapman and stuff like that, but coming over being the closer, I mean, closer, you need confidence. You need a short memory. You need confidence. So I feel like that's really just the big thing with Williams. He's been throwing the ball well. Touch back on the Cleveland series, where I had a 30 pitch inning to close the game out, but he threw the ball well. They just spoiled at bats. So I like the way the last couple of weeks he's been throwing. He's locating the fastball. He's got a little bit more life on it, which allows his airbender to be the pitch that we know it is. Um,
Right.
so I thought he threw well. Fernando Cruz, welcome back. I know he came back in the Cleveland series, but looked good here. Lasagna looked good too. The only issue I have right now with our bullpen, especially the back end, is we're using a lot of guys. I don't want to say overuse, but there's a lot of guys I feel like that are constantly getting called on. And then there's
Yeah,
guys that are being called on in situations that they shouldn't be pitching in
right.
because we're using guys kind of in situations that we shouldn't be using.
Which I think we should touch on in game two. That was
Yeah.
being there, being in the Bronx, seeing the Yankees come back. I think we should have dealt with it differently, but I'll let you hop into game two.
Yeah, I agree. So game two, we had Crochet against Yarborough. I mean, on paper, shouldn't win the game. Um, Crochet's been absolutely nasty this year. Everything the Red Sox have dreamed of. He looks like a Chris Sale 2.0 in the Boston Red. Um, but it was really, honestly, it was their offense that was a story. Game two, uh, their bats came alive, which you kind of had a feeling, they came alive in the second half of game one, and that just kind of rolled over into game two against Yarborough, who I've been kind of hyping him up. Um, kind of came back down to reality a little bit, but
Yeah,
you know, it's tough. The Red Sox have a good lineup against lefties. They throw out a lot of righties out there that are specifically, you have a lot of guys that in the league that hit lefties or hit righties well as a lefty batter. They have a lot of guys that just play when lefties start. Ref Snyder, Romy Gonzalez, those guys absolutely mashed. Um, Ref Snyder's always been a good lefty. I actually kind of want the
yeah.
Yankees to trade for him, but um, Crochet was. They touched him up a little bit. Did finish with nine Ks throughout 6 innings, 97 pitches. Just looked dominant. The fastball was it said 97, looked like he was playing 99, 100. He blew Judge away probably 7 or 8 times on a fastball. Um, I'll touch on that a little bit too. But so Crochet kind of handed over to the bullpen. Greg Weissert, this one stings. Obviously, former Yankee. Uh, he shit on us all series. I'll say that. Um, he had our number, that's for sure. He looked like he was pitching with uh, some anger. You could definitely see it in his body language. Um, he looked really good. Justin Wilson, another former Yank. That's actually kind of crazy. They finished the game with 3 former Yankees, which of course, it's just a
Yeah.
storyline for us. We did score against Wilson, but he looks solid. Chapman came in and looked dominant as ever. Crazy. The guy's 37 years old. He still throws 100. I mean, he's insane. It's a Hall of Famer, if you had to ask me, for sure. He's probably going to pitch until he's 40. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so back end of their bullpen looked good. Uh, Offensively for us, Wells 3-run shot off Crochet. Um, just
Yeah,
attacked him early.
Wells looked hot last night. From coming off of a kind of a dry stretch with the question of whose bat is going to be better between Wells and Escara, and
Hmm.
you take a chance, both lefties, and Wells produced, and it didn't end up in a win, but so he did all we can ask for him,
Yeah, I
from him.
mean,
So
tallied 4 RBIs. The thing that first inning home run, he just attacked him early. I feel like with Wells, he likes to be aggressive, but the thing with him is a lot of times he'll miss that pitch. So far this year, he's been missing that pitch early on,
right,
and then when he's not aggressive early, he gets behind, and then he does see a lot of pitches. That's all. That's kind of why Booney liked him in the leadoff spot to kind of start the year. Kind of dilly dallied with that idea, showed it a little bit, but I think with Wells against a tough lefty like that, it was even more impressive. Kind of got it. Looked like that pitch was definitely a mislocation, little cutter up in the zone. And Wells just jumped on it, put it out to right. Also had a rope to left center. Looked good on that as well. So he had the 4 RBIs. Like I said, Crochet had Judge's number, 3 strikeouts. Uh, Kind of Judge looked lost in game two.
yeah, a couple of times this series he was it wasn't looking like the guy we know him as, but you can't ask for that every game. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that he's going through a lot of pressure, but pressure builds diamonds, and we'll
Yeah,
see that hopefully soon.
yeah, I agree. Rice, Goldie, Dominguez, all over. Tough games for them. It's crazy sitting there to think that Jason Dominguez is a natural right-handed hitter, and he is. It's hard to watch him hit from the right side.
It is.
Uh, I know he's had some clutch hits from the right side in some games this year, but man, every game.
I
Listen,
think
I know he doesn't play every day, kind of, which kind of sucks because he's been waiting in the minors. He's been hyped up to be a prospect, and then he comes up and he still doesn't play every day. So
yeah,
I know there's a rhythm and timing thing with that, but the splits between his right-handed hitting and left-handed hitting is, man, it's bad.
and I think we're going to see even less of that when Stanton comes back in the DH spot, and he doesn't have that second option. Our outfield is great with Grisham, Belly,
Yeah,
Judge.
defensively,
He's he's going to see less and less time if Stanton comes back and is playing, you know, 3 out of 4 games a week, more than that. Like he's he's got to start producing from both sides if he's going to call himself a switch hitter. I think for now Boone has to play strategically and play him against right-handed pitchers, and think of another strategy when you see a lefty coming up.
yeah, I agree, and it's tough too because when you want to talk about this kind of plays into kind of lineup options and roster options when you think about it. It's like, yeah, if he hits righties, obviously, I don't want to say well, but if he hits righties better than he does lefties, he should be in there against righties more often. But that's tough because if Grisham's struggling right now too, so you kind of got to find a hot hand. Obviously,
Mhm.
you're not going to sit Bellinger against a right, even though Bellinger's splits against lefties and righties is astronomical. He hits lefties 5 times better than he does righties. It's nuts.
Yeah,
But obviously, you're probably not going to sit Bellinger, and the way Rice swings it against righties, you're not going to sit Rice against a righty. That's kind of the platoon they have going right now.
right.
So,
And I think like you said about Grisham, he's struggling a little bit right now, but I just think him defensively is so much more valuable in
100%.
the field than
Dominguez at
Dominguez's
the
bat
plate. Yeah.
is. Yeah. So, there's a lot of thinking to do for Boone, and how he's going to incorporate him into the lineup, if at all, come later in the season.
Yeah, 100%. Especially Bellinger swinging it really well over his last, 25, 30 games. He's his his approach to watch him mature as a hitter back when he was winning Rookie of the Year and MVP with the Dodgers. Obviously, he still has that big swing that everyone kind of knows him for, but his approach, especially with 2 strikes, to see it evolve over the years. We started seeing it when he went to Chicago 2 years back, just to shorten up everything and just try to smack something the other way.
Love his two-strike approach.
You talk about evolution hitters. We talk about how much Judges evolved as a hitter and turned into the best hitter in the world. I mean, Bellinger, the way he's evolved too, and the way he's matured. as a hitter. Not just he was a big power guy when he was with the Dodgers. That's what everyone knew him for. And to see him now, what he does. Listen, he's not gonna hit 300. But where he's at right now, about 268. Uh, you know,
And this day and age, we're kind of going away from the 300 being good.
it's
Like
just not. Yeah,
300 is great now. You don't
yeah,
see
it's
that
great.
often.
hmm That's why when you see these guys in the 340s, 350s, and obviously guys like you know, not guys like Judge, but just Judge, when
Judge.
you're hitting 397 and into almost halfway through June, you're starting to sit there and you're like, oh, especially
Yeah.
batting average this year. I think the league average is 223. That's, I mean, it's getting rough. And so to see these guys, 270, you're like, that's a solid. Like this guy's, he knows what he's doing up there. So for Bellinger too, he's been providing so much for them too on the base path, defensively, being able to play
Yeah.
all three outfield spots, even throw him at first. God forbid Goldie got hurt. Don't worry,
Yeah, very
Bellinger can slide in.
versatile. Like you
So
said about the stolen bases, I loved Belly, 3 stolen bases game 2.
yeah,
We hadn't seen that yet, so it was great to see, some of the speed moving on the bases, and especially from someone you don't typically see it from.
yeah. Um, I'm gonna move on a little bit. LeMahieu actually swung the bat pretty well. He was 2 for 3 with two ribs. That one, he's slowly. I don't want to say heating up, but his at bats are competitive. And even his outs are well hit balls. He had a shot to right last night with runners on to end the inning. Smoked it to right at the guy. He's hit a couple balls up the middle that just with the new defensive alignments aren't a base hit anymore.
Right.
Um, so I don't want him to be an everyday lineup guy.
Right. And even defensively for now,
He holds his own.
he does hold his own. He's what, 36,
Yeah,
and he's producing like, an average second baseman. You can't ask for a ton much more from a guy that age, but he's holding his own.
yeah. So it's good to see him. Looks like he's got a little bit of joy back too, especially when he's able to produce with runners on. Um, Again, had the game been a little bit closer, that 2-run single he punched through may have been a bit more important, which does play into some of the pitching options that we went through.
Yeah.
De Los Santos, gutsy 3 innings in relief. Um, that was that was impressive. That kept us in the game. You know,
Yeah.
those 3 innings he's in there, he looks solid. He's got good stuff. He's a guy that I wouldn't mind them going to in certain situations, maybe a little bit more, instead of kind of
Right.
being that we need length out of the bullpen. Let's just throw it to Yeri.
Yeah.
I feel like in certain games, instead of maybe using a guy a second day in a row, and you have a three
Especially
run and you have a 3-run cushion, give him an inning. I feel like that could be something. He's throwing the ball well. He's got good movement both ways. Um, but I thought he looked good.
Yeah,
Lighter.
especially with our, you know, we don't have the deepest rotation in the
hmm
league, so having a guy like that can go a couple innings is very valuable on a team like this, even if he's not the greatest, relief pitcher of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
Still
Especially
valuable.
when really you're only looking out of right now, when you're really only looking out of 2 of 5 starters that you feel confident going more than 6, even even on some nights more than 5. And it's really talk about Rodon and Freed. Right now, those are the only two I feel confident getting into the 6th inning.
100%.
Um, it's everything has to be going right for Yarbrough and Warren to do it, and
Yeah.
Schmidt just hasn't looked good at all.
Yeah, if Clark's, if Clark's locating his pitches, there's some confidence there, but he hasn't been that consistent guy to
Yeah,
trust him enough.
still working back from the injury, so it might take some time, but I feel like time might be slowly running out in his sense. Uh,
Yeah.
but so that was kind of it. Leiter was really good again. Um, I thought Leiter's thrown the ball exceptionally well this year. Um, he's throwing his. One thing I've noticed with him is he's throwing his fastball a lot more, and the velo's up. Last year when he came over and in the playoffs, he'd throw that little kind of sinker he's got. It's more of a two seam. I wouldn't really call it a sinker. It's more of a two seam, and it's sitting 95, sometimes 96. He came over last year. It was only like 93, 94. So
Yeah, what is
he's been throwing that a bit more, and I think that's his splitter. Obviously, is his go-to. Um,
yeah.
so with that's playing really well off the fastball, and he's also been able to drop that curveball in there too. And that's like it's like 74 miles per hour. It's kind of got like the
Yeah,
Kershaw
nice.
effect.
It's like a little almost an eephus.
Almost, yeah, it's kind of it's almost reaching that point. But he's thrown the ball really well. I've been really impressed with him. And then just the thing that confuses me is how do you turn the ball over to Ian Hamilton?
That's exactly what I wanted to touch on. Being I was in section 103 at the game, so I'm sitting right next to the bullpen. When DJ hits that 2-run shot, I look over to see who's warming up. There's Devin and Ian both warming up right next to each other. I'm like, all right, Devin, may have to be your time to come in. Even though we're down one, still
Yeah,
put our fate in your hands. And I was shocked to see Hamilton running out of the bullpen in the ninth. So,
yeah, it's
and
just
clearly,
uh, to me it's just a bit confusing. Um, he just doesn't throw the ball well. He's had a lot of injuries. He had a little spurt, I think it was 2 years ago, where he thought that this guy could be something kind of legit at the back end of our bullpen. But I mean, he's walking 15% of batters. Uh,
yeah, that's
for a guy that's coming out of the bullpen, he's not considered a high leverage guy for us to be walking 15, almost 16% of the batters you're facing. And then he gets in the zone and it's just right down the middle. He doesn't have the life. I mean, there were spurts where he was hitting 98, sometimes 99 the last couple of years before he started really getting injured. But now there's not a lot of movement, and that little changeup slash slurve thing that he throws, it doesn't throw it for a strike. It doesn't get hitters to swing at it. So he's one of those guys that when we talk about the bullpen, which leads me to want them to kind of make a trade maybe within the next week or two just for another bullpen arm to either replace or just to add to the bullpen to have another option
I would
because
agree.
he's been awful. Uh,
Yeah, I
it's
would take a late reliever, not necessarily another closer, because with Weaver coming back in a couple weeks,
yeah,
knock on wood, you don't want to go with a guy that can only go 1 inning, maybe two
yeah,
innings max. You want to have some depth, but I would love to see them go for someone in the bullpen.
yeah. It's just just watching him. He's pitching to an above 5 ERA right now. Um, I mean, the average exit velo off him is damn near 90 miles per hour, which is not good. He's coming out of the bullpen. He's got a high K rate, but I don't care. You're walking almost like 1 out of 3 batters you face. So the K rates are great, but when you're giving up runs to go along with your walks, because walks hurt in baseball. The teams that make walks hurt are the ones that are going to win baseball games. So
I just, in that situation, would come
yeah,
back.
I just
I don't
yeah
think that's the
to
right move
me,
there.
if anything, I know the whole thing with the Booney doesn't like going 3 guys in 4 days, stuff like that. Obviously, never really 3 guys 3 days in a row, but Leiter looked so good in the eighth.
Send them,
He only
keep
threw
them going.
14 pitches.
Yeah, and Leiter's a guy
At
that I can
least, at
trust.
least maybe go batter by batter with him.
Yeah,
So
but
to
it's
sit
someone that
there,
Leiter is someone that I definitely trust more than Ian Hamilton to come
oh
in and
yeah,
close out the game. Like
oh yeah,
14 pitches, you want to keep them going. And, it's hard to watch Ian Hamilton run out of the bullpen when Leiter
yeah. He's
only
all
threw
he's all
14. And
jacked up. You can't even see his eyes. That's how low he wears his hat. Like, listen, I don't hate players. I'm not a big fan of Hamilton. I mean, there's really only one guy out of the bullpen that I think I trust less to get outs with, and uh, I'll talk about him in a few minutes. But to me, that was a questionable. These are decisions. Again, I know it's early June, right? But these are games where it's like this means stuff. Not it's Yankees. It's Yankees Red Sox. It's a big game. You're mounting a comeback. These are games and decisions that people will say, "This Aaron Boone's not a very good manager."
You know,
This is
well,
what kind of leads it to it. When stuff like this gets done in games and situations that most people just won't agree with.
yeah,
I, I just was baffled when I saw him come out, and I said, "Whoa, must have a lot of trust in him." Or you're just, to me, it was kind of like throwing in the white towel, putting
yeah,
him in.
yeah. I think that
But
was just taking the loss to the gut, and
I mean, you know, props to Boston though. I mean, they hit the ball well.
yeah,
Uh,
they deserved it.
Christian
You know,
Campbell's been struggling, had a big series, so that might get him back on track. Like I said, him, Romy Gonzalez, Trevor Story, they all played well. They combined for 8 hits, 9 RBIs out of the out of their 10 runs. Those three guys combined for 9. So
Gonzalez
good
and Story
offensive game
both
for them for sure.
3-hit games, and
Yeah. So they played well. Hopefully for Boston fans, Campbell can turn around. Obviously, just got news today. He made his debut. Roman Anthony got called up. So their future is starting to become their present, trying to turn their season around. Obviously, Meyer's been up for about a week. He played solid in the series. Campbell's been a work in progress, obviously, this year. And now Roman Anthony coming up, especially with their injuries with Bregman and Casas, and you know, just some question marks throughout the team. That they're at the point right now where they need a jolt and they need to kind of turn things around. So I think it was a smart decision calling these guys up. It's just going to bring a new energy in for them. And if you're a Boston
totally
fan,
agree.
you should be really excited about these guys. Roman Anthony is a freak, absolute
As
freak.
a Yankees fan, you
It
hate to
scares
see it,
me
but you got to give him props.
because like we don't have anybody on the level of those three guys.
Not at all.
It's not even close. Lombard, but he's a couple years away. But
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
He's not ready yet. As much as I would love him to be,
um,
he's not at
which
that
kind of
level
set,
yet.
yeah. So kind of segues into Game Three. Kind of similar action to Game Two. Uh, we come out top of the first. Rookie Dobbins on the mound. Said he
He said
said if you didn't know the quote,
if the Yankees were the last team to give him a contract, he would retire, which is a lot coming from a rookie just entering the league. I get it. Your dad's a Sox fan. You grew up a Sox fan, so Jazz shirts back, but
yeah, Jazz talked about it with the little when they did the in game interview with him on the field. I will say this, just to bring this up real quick. I do like the in-game interviews. Personally, I think it's stupid to do it when they're in the field. And
I
I'm
would
not just saying this because they did it to him last night and he made an error with the microphone on. He probably would have made that error regardless, even if he didn't have the microphone on.
yeah,
Tough ass play. I think it is so dumb that they do it when they're in the field, bro. Do it when they're in the dugout,
yeah.
where they don't have to really,
Let them.
they're not really trying to focus as much. Like, and everyone always wants to make jokes about it, like in spring training when it'll just be like Mookie Betts, he's got to go chase down a fly ball, and like, oh, it's that's funny. I think it's dumb. But these guys are out here
Yeah,
trying to win
totally
baseball
agree.
games in the middle of the
It's
game.
not good for the sport. It's
It's not.
the
It's
fan.
cool and all that you want to get the fans involved. You want to hear these guys through the process of the game, but do it when they're in the dugout.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think
Totally,
in the
totally
field
agree.
is anytime I'm watching a Sunday night game, I think like the dude to Kike one game when he was playing third, and like there's probably a reason why they don't really do it with infielders because the ball getting hit to you in the infield is greater than in the outfield. So a lot of times you see these outfield guys they're just kind of standing around doing nothing.
Yeah,
But
especially outfield guys. They have time to react to a ball. Infield guys, you're getting a ball hit at you on the ground,
yeah,
upwards of 95, 100 miles an hour, and you don't have time to think what the reporter just said or what the broadcast just said, and make that play at the same time. So, I'm not necessarily saying that that's what happened to Jazz, but
Nah, nah. Like I said, I think he 10 out of 10 times probably isn't making that play. Uh, it's just the reality of the play, to be honest. But that was just kind
made
of
us
my
look bad.
thoughts.
That's all I can
Yeah,
say. Made us look worse than we
yeah.
probably would have been.
It's their fault, man. Jazz always makes that play. It's just so stupid. He's sitting here talking, but no. But like, I, I just don't. I don't like it. I'm all about miking guys up, and because I love the NBA does that. You hear the kind of in-game talk. I think that's cool, but they're also not sitting here taking questions from the
Right.
broadcasters in the middle of the game. So I think miking guys up I think that's awesome. But if you want to do in-game interviews, they should be in the dugout.
I
That's
totally agree.
that's just kind of my thought. But kind of get back to it here. So leading off, obviously Grisham or Rice, sorry, lead off single, and then father comes up,
Run
first pitch,
blast.
first pitch aggressive. That ball was absolutely. Remember, as soon as he hit that, me and my brother texted each other at the same exact moment, and we were like, that ball was pissed on. That absolute missile. The thing with me too, how I know that game and that kind of at bat meant a little bit more there. He stood and watched it for a couple seconds. He knew that ball was gone as soon as he hit it. If you watch the home plate angle that they showed, and that ball was long gone as soon as he touched it, he stood there and watched it for a couple seconds, which he doesn't normally do. Obviously,
Yeah, that's
he didn't bat flip and anything like that, but he did admire it for a few seconds and then took off on his trot. Obviously, that's the biggest thing to judge. He plays the game the right way,
yeah.
which I think is the reason why everybody else in the league has so much respect for him.
Yeah,
You've
there's
seen you've
no
seen
bullshit
throughout the
involved with
years
his game. It's
exactly. You've seen throughout the years certain guys, some at the top of their craft. Some guys have certain things to say, but he just does everything the right way, which I think the respect level in that sense is even higher. But that ball was destroyed. I think it was 113 off the bat over the bullpen. Um, so that was a great start to the game. I said, "This is fantastic." I hit one leg of the parlay as soon as the game started. I was like, "Let's go." Uh, Cooked up the little parlay I had. Obviously didn't hit. I had Judge to homer. Bellinger hit. That looked great. I bought into the Jazz Chisholm shit talk. Took him to hit a homer.
that. Yeah,
He went over.
if you're gonna talk to shit, you got to back it up. So
Yeah. Um, and then I had Rodon 5 strikeouts. He was sharp through four. Looked really good through the first four. Uh, Slider was working well. He was struggling a little bit with the command, especially the first inning. Couldn't really get that slider over. Um, but again, Red Sox a good team against lefties. They throw in guys that hit well against southpaws. So Rodon was good through the first four. Then the fifth gave up, 2-run shot to Campbell, and then when we came back, LeMahieu take a 3 to again. LeMahieu steps in, homers. Now we got 3-2. I'm like, all right, here we go. And then sixth inning from hell, uh, Narvaez 3-run shot puts him up 5-3 again. Former Yank, wasn't really ever a Yank, always one of our prospects, but to see a lot of former Yankees do damage against us, it hurts.
does
That's why I felt so good in the Subway Series when Soto did absolutely nothing
nothing. And
because this guy played for us and he did nothing. So it makes you feel a little bit better.
yeah, especially,
Now,
well, I'll say it's different. But Soto is, everyone wants him to play awful. All the
yeah,
Yankees fans booing him, turning their backs on them. This is a little different, but
a little different, but it still
still
kind of
still
leaves
a
that
Yankee.
taste. It
Yeah,
still kind of leaves that taste that former Yankees are hurting you. So yeah, LeMahieu's homer and then the Narvaez homer. Uh, Kind of a heartbreaker, to be honest. And then throughout the rest of the game, we had multiple chances. To, sixth, seventh, eighth inning. Never really got the big hit. Jazz had bases loaded, one out in the sixth. Um, only be able to produce a sac fly in that situation, being down 7-3 is kind of obviously you take the run where you can get it, but out of your number five hitter to kind of to only get that was a bit of a letdown, I'd say. I mean, he hit the ball well, but a bit of a letdown to only get one run out of that.
Yeah, it's not something you want to see when we're, you know, down quite a bit.
Yeah,
We
not
need
asking the guy to hit a grand slam, but
right, but a guy like Jazz who, has been great his entire career. It was unfortunate, honestly, that he was with the Marlins and didn't have much to work with there. And now that he's here, we need a lot from him, and especially in spots like this.
mhm. my my kind of issue I had with the at bat, to be honest, was Wilson had just walked. I believe it was Goldschmidt with pitchers
Yep.
not even close in the zone to swing first pitch. I said it as like as he hit the ball to left, obviously get the sack. I've got to make sure the ball is caught first and didn't like catch a gap before I spoke too soon. But I don't know. He walked Goldschmidt on five pitches, and the four balls were just not even close to the zone. So then lefty lefty, you swing first pitch after that on a ball that wasn't. It was a good pitcher's pitch, low in the zone, fastball. I like the aggressiveness, but I think in that kind of situation, I think just uh,
Especially,
I
see, it
think
also
seeing a strike there was probably should was a smarter move. I mean, Wilson wasn't really around the zone all night,
I mean,
so I
what
think
you said, about him walking Goldie, he also walked Judge on five pitches. Rice had a six pitch at bat. Belly ended up singling to left. So, not everyone's going to be in the same boat, but take a pitch there, see what he's giving you, and work with
yeah,
that. Bases loaded. You don't swing at the first pitch. It's
yeah. So I just thought that was kind of again another letdown. Um, Eventually, Lasagna comes in and pitched well in game one, and then little bit of a different story. Last night, gave up a couple homers. One to Toro. That ball was crushed. See, like, that's the stuff that hurts me. Seeing guys that like shouldn't be hurting you in games, like Abraham Toro's bounce around the league. He's only playing because of injury. So to see him go 3 for 4 with extra base hits, putting a home run into the seats. Trevor Story followed it up with a homer to right. Uh, so a tough outing for Johnny. And then they pass it over to this guy. So this is the guy I'm talking about. The only guy I trust less in the bullpen to get outs. Uh, Brent Hedrick. I think it's Hedrick. I don't think it's Hedrick. It's Brent Hedrick. Listen, I understand he's kind of up there. He's another lefty, and he's kind of in there. He's just that seventh arm in the bullpen. But I mean, he's really not even.
he's
Like
not an arm.
he's a mop up guy. Gives you multiple innings at the end of games, but like, yikes!
Yeah. I mean, down 9-5, the game's not out of your hands
It's not.
necessarily.
It really isn't, especially because you show that you can get runners on at the end of the game, and then like, man, I don't know. I just don't think at that point in the situation your bullpen's kind of tired out. You had the day off coming up, today. So I don't know. It was just
Yeah,
I'm just talk about not a fan of somebody. I just don't think he should even. There's got to be some other lefty that we could. If you want a second lefty in the bullpen, there's got to be somebody else.
I mean, you
But
also you have Goldie, Jazz, and Volpe coming up, who uh, Jazz didn't get on, but you know, Goldie and Volpe did some work. Who knows if they produce some runs, you're gonna leave Hedrick in?
yeah,
You're gonna put someone up.
it is tough to say because obviously it was Lasagna gave up the couple homer. I'm just gonna automatically call him Lasagna too. Like I'm not even gonna think Eliza is his last name. It's just Lasagna is gonna come out all the time. Um, So like obviously he gave up the couple of runs that kind of extended their lead. So that played into it too. I don't think he definitely doesn't come into the game if they don't score off of Johnny. There's
Right.
just no way. I mean, if he did, then we'd be having a whole different conversation. But
Right.
you know, I thought Tim Hill was available.
Yeah.
Could have used
And
him.
he's been,
Uh,
he's been one of the more reliable pitchers out of the pen.
yeah,
So
big time Timmy Jim. Can't disrespect Tim Lincecum. Absolutely not. Uh,
we call him
yeah.
Old
So
Curly over here.
Curly. Well, it looks like he looks like
Yeah.
old Curly. Yeah. Um, so that's I just kind of felt I don't know. Obviously Red Sox tally on some runs. Judge adds another homer in the ninth, 2-run shot. So obviously a lot of fans stayed because they knew he was coming up again. So he made them happy. He
Two
made me
homer
happy.
game for him.
Yeah, he
Take that
actually.
any day of the week. But
I saw a stat. He has. I think he has 10 games with three or more hits, and he only has 12 games where he's went hitless this year. So, and
crazy.
also his home runs, he's pulled six. He's gone to center 9 times, and then I think uh, it's like 8 to opposite field, which is just crazy. Obviously, you think about home run hitters, you probably assuming guys pulling home runs, but again, this way we talk about the evolution of a hitter. He's so good. He's just like in a sense of kind of like A Rod. A Rod's power alley was right center. Like if you watched his swings, when he hit the ball to right center, it was effortless. Now, yeah, I know he was taking steroids at certain points in his career, but you
We can
can't
skip
deny
right
how
past
you
that.
can't deny how good of a baseball player Alex Rodriguez was. Uh,
Yeah.
so he reminds me in that sense of Judge's. That's his where he goes right center. Obviously, when he pulls it, he's going to crush it, but he's looking to go right center. When you watch behind the scenes videos and he's talking with Harold Reynolds about his hitting approach, a couple of years ago during his historic season, he talks about where his hands are placed, being able to swing. If he had to swing from just in his batting stance, he could and not get beat by something. So that's just the maturity of a hitter that he's turned into. Um, you know, it's exceptional to see. Uh, so he has the homer there, took the ninth, little sour taste. We kind of made some noise there in the ninth, and then Alex Cora said, "Cut this shit." Chapman comes in and made Volpe look like an absolute buffoon up there.
Yeah.
Volpe launched his bat about 25 feet backwards on the swing and the miss. Um, just a nasty splitter from Chapman. That's where he's gotten so good too. He's got 3 pitches now instead of just one. Really
Didn't
impressive.
even throw the fastball that at bat.
Yeah, yeah, no, I didn't
Which
need
is
to.
especially
Just
on Volpe, who, as we've seen, struggles against fastball. It's
yeah,
like almost even more upsetting that that's how the final out went.
yeah,
When this
um,
guy can pump the ball right by him, but
yeah. And he just drops that nasty splitter in there. But overall, just kind of recapping it, a little disappointing in Rodon. Not a little, definitely disappointing in Rodon. His ability, again, his Achilles heel continues to be the home run and the walks. His walks are too high, um, which separates him from that kind of ace category. Obviously, he's been great this year after the slow start. Uh, but last night, the walks and the home run ball hurt him.
I think
Um, I had a lot of confidence going in last night with Rodon on the mound against a rookie. I was like, on paper, we should win this game. Again, on paper, sometimes it doesn't matter. Right? Baseball's
as we
not played
saw
on
with
paper.
Yamamoto and
Yeah.
Yarbrough,
So
we ended up winning that game, but baseball's a tough sport.
it's baseball
Doesn't always
season.
go your way.
Yeah. It's just odd. So it's definitely disappointing to see Rodon kind of give that performance in a big, again, national TV. I don't want to say embarrassed, but people, Yankees are consistently ranked in the top 5 in the power rankings every week, and then to go out back-to-back weeks, back-to-back nights, lose on national TV. Uh, it hurts a little bit more than just when they're playing on Yes. and they lose. Obviously,
Right.
a lot of the country's watching, especially Yankees, Red Sox, Yankees,
Yeah.
Dodgers, big rivalries like that. It's tough to say. I think we kind of suck on national television, just like the Knicks. Um, but yeah, so just I think the pitching was obviously really not what you would like to see. Um,
Pitching,
those
I
three
think, hurt
games,
us hurt us the most in this series. Our bats
yeah,
weren't the best they've been, but they've
yeah,
provided enough runs each game to produce a win. You can't rely on the offense to produce 10 runs a game like we've seen early in the season, but um, yeah, pitching definitely was the downside of this series.
yeah. We scored 24 in 3 games, which is damn average 8 runs a game. Pretty solid.
Yeah,
You probably won 2 out of 3 or swept. Not when you give up 27. You know that's hard to do. It's an old saying in sports. A lot of times, people ask, how do you win? You just have to score more than the other team. Um, like basketball, it's like, yeah, if the goal is to score more points than the other team. Baseball, when you score more runs than the other team, when you give up less than you score, you're probably going to win. So pitching, which is it's crazy because going into the series, Boston's offense had been struggling. Their starting pitching had been good. Their starting pitching had been bad, and their bullpen had been good. So then their bats come alive. The Yankees starting pitching and bullpen had been great. Their offense played well, but their pitching shit the bed. So again, it's just baseball. It changes on a daily basis. One thing I kind of took note watching those games, uh, it's kind of just being a little picky with it, but there were a lot of at bats throughout the games where we struggled with fastballs, especially ones with like upper velo, not even 99, 100, like 96, 97. A
which you
lot of
see
fastball.
on a daily basis. So you can't.
Yeah,
That's almost it is unacceptable.
which is
Um,
it's a little. I don't want to say it's concerning. Again, it's one series, but it's a little odd because the Yankees are among the top in the league when about crushing fastballs. It's usually the off-speed stuff that we have trouble with, but this series, I mean, Dobbins was throwing fastballs by us. Weiser was throwing fastballs by us. These guys out of the bullpen were throwing fastballs right by us. Obviously, Crochet, that's a different animal because you can't see the ball coming out of his hand.
yeah,
He puts his leg up like freaking Louis Tiant from back in the day. Uh, so that's a different animal. But his fastballs in the zone. It's one thing when you're chasing it, above the zone, stuff like that. But I don't know. There were just a lot of fastballs in the zone that I feel like we were missing, whether we were swinging missing or just not barreling. Obviously, yeah, there were outliers where Judge is homering off fastballs or LeMay homers or Volpe homers, but just I don't know. I felt like I saw too many fastballs
yeah.
well in the zone for us to be missing or not catching up to. Um,
And as soon as teams start to notice that, if that becomes a trend,
yeah,
it's not going to do us any favors.
and you've seen it leak into scouting reports too. That's a scouting report with Volpe. He struggles with fastballs, struggles with velo. Uh, Goldschmidt looked really bad against fastballs this series. I don't know if, and even recently too. And
Right.
it's not even crazy velo. He looks like he's not seeing the ball well
Yeah.
right now. He's in a bit of a slump. Obviously, again, people are freaking out when he's at 365. He's not gonna do that all year.
Yeah.
Like, so he's slowing down a bit. Um, to me, he's the one that's a little bit more concerning about kind of the fastball stuff because obviously he is older. It could be catching up with him a little bit. It could be an overreaction, obviously.
Yeah.
The
You want to
fastballs are
you
just
want to
kind
give
of
him
beating him.
you want to give him some slack, but
Yeah,
you're still in the majors. You got to get on one every once in a while and
yeah,
produce when you can, when you're given that opportunity of a fastball down the middle.
yep. And it's just especially stuff like this too. I mean, it's playoff atmosphere baseball, so this is stuff you kind of you overreact a bit too because it reminds you of October baseball, and you don't want to see it happen in October. But
Yeah,
again, early June, not the worst thing in the world. Still comfortable lead, May at least. And then the last thing too about the series, which is kind of just basically a reoccurring theme for every series for the Yankees, double plays. Uh, it's bad again. Getting kind of sick and tired of watching guys ground into double plays.
yeah, just rolling over.
It's everybody too. It's even Judge has been a victim of it many times. Um, LeMahieu, Wells, Volpe. Uh,
Yeah, just I
I feel like it's something that kind of carries over to uh, every series. I feel like we struggle with, and
yeah,
combining that with leaving runners on base. This series particularly was really bad.
yeah. As you said
Um,
with Jazz before, you're in a high leverage spot. This isn't necessarily grounding out, but flying out to left. You're
yeah,
Jazz is a phenomenal player, and you can't say like he has to produce in this specific at bat, but you want to see you got bases loaded. You want to see a good at bat. You don't want to see a one pitch fly out, and so that
exactly.
turns into the runners left on, and who knows what we could have made this out of if that wasn't an issue. So we got some things to patch up, and as we move into the next series.
Yep, yep. Take it away.
Yeah, so we'll segue right into tomorrow. As of recording tomorrow, we got a 3-game set in Kansas City. Just over 500 team. Our probables: Schmidt, Fried, Schmidt, Warren. You know, two of our bottom guys. But Tuesday, Fried versus the rookie Noah Cameron, who's posted a .84 ERA in 31 innings pitched over 5 games, which is nuts to see. But he's never seen the pinstripes. They are playing at home. He'll have some backup there, but hopefully we can produce against them.
Yeah. Tell you what.
He's
I'll tell
getting
you what.
one.
He ain't being backed up by. Not to have a crystal ball here. He ain't being backed up by his offense. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah,
Uh, their offense sucks.
yeah,
Uh,
and
oh, worst, least amount of home runs in the league. Um, and then you look at the opposite. They're like seventh in the majors in batting average, like 12th in OPS. They just don't hit the ball out of the stadium. Kauffman Stadium is tough. It's a big stadium, uh, but they have no power on their team
and you want to
whatsoever.
you want to talk about Salvi? Like he was
He's
once one of the
old.
he is, but he was once one of the best hitters in the league. If you're going to stay around, you should probably produce. But
I
we
think he's catching too much. I think he just needs to be a DH.
I would have to agree with you there. Those knees are getting old on him.
They got a lot of miles on them. That's for
Yeah,
sure. And that's another Hall of Famer too. You know, but
oh for sure.
they have
And then
a little bit of a spark. They called up Big Jack.
Jack Caglione coming off a four
Jack
for
Attack.
four game, 4 for 4. He's looked pretty good. He's got a couple of hits here and there, but coming off of 4 for 4 games, giving him a lot of confidence coming into game one of the series. Um,
Good boost for them for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, for
It's a
sure.
tough division. 4 good teams in that division. I mean, no one's catching the Tigers, but 4 good teams. It's going to be a battle for them, and I think he provides a spark offensively from the left hand side. Uh, Crazy pop in his bat. Some of the exit velos he was putting up in the minors were just stupid. I mean, he was a first round pick last year, and he's already in the majors. That's starting to become a trend in the big leagues. I think previously, kind of the last guy we saw that with was 2 years ago. Nolan Schanuel with the Angels was a first round pick and made the majors in the same season. So
Yeah,
these guys that get
not
drafted,
not traditional, but
yeah,
it's
same thing
it's
with
happening.
Skeens. It's these guys coming out of college are more MLB ready, and teams at certain points need sparks. at, at certain points in the season, and so some of these guys are. But I think Caglianone is really good for a really long time.
Moving into game two, we got Schmidt. We'll see if he can locate his cutter because that seems to be about the only thing working for him
Yeah,
sometimes. Um, Against Chris Bubik,
Bubik's been
he's
amazing,
he's been great. He's
been phenomenal, man.
posting a 1.4 ERA over 12 games. So, it's definitely we're gonna have some work cut out for us throughout this series. And
I tell you what, the craziest thing with Bubik has been the only thing he's less than league average in ranking wise is fastball velo.
which we just touched on this. We would love to. We got to make use of that while we can.
Yeah,
We haven't, like you just said, we haven't been hitting fastballs, and it's a problem for us. So I think if there's one weak area of his game, and that being the fastball velocity, we got to make use of that. Jump on the fastball when we see it, and
yep.
you know,
Yeah, he's got a 5 pitch mix, but again, he likes using fastball early in the count. He'll use the changeup a lot to righties. He's got the big sweeper. Uh, he's just I've Kansas City slightly reminds me of the mold and the model that we've seen from Tampa in the recent years. They just kind of just craft pitching, and right now that's what Kansas City has. We knew they were going to have that coming to this year. We knew the rotation was going to be deep. The bullpen was the bit of the question mark, and obviously the offense, but their starters have been great. Even with a shortened season so far from Cole Reagans, who a lot of people picked to be their Cy Young, which I mean he's pitching in the same league as Tarek Skubal, so I don't really know why he would do that. But Reagans obviously was dealing with injury earlier this year, so he's only started a few games, only thrown 48 innings. But yeah, Bubik has been phenomenal. I mean, I remember him when he first came up, and he would serve up meatballs. I mean,
so I guess
Sunday dinner meatballs. Just fat.
we'll uh, we'll use that to segue into game three. Young Will Warren, and Cole Reagans,
There he is.
who,
Colorful.
yeah, coming off an injury, he's got a 5.1 ERA. You can't, he's only been back a couple games, so it's not you can't judge him much on that. But what you see with these last three Royals pitchers, all lefties. As a Yankees
Yep.
fan, I hope I don't see Dominguez
Yeah, we know
coming
who we
at
don't want in the lineup.
yeah, you want the guys who can produce. I would love to see Belly just go off three lefties, lefty, lefty. Would love to see Judge barrel some balls. Um,
Tell you, tell you who I'd love to have in the lineup this weekend. This week,
Paul
Big G.
Goldschmidt. Oh, Big G, Big G.
Paul Gold, yeah,
His
Paul, yeah, Goldschmidt's great. Yeah, I'd love to have him in the lineup too.
you know,
But Stanton mashes at Kaufman. I'd love to have him in this
oh
series
yeah,
soon. Soon.
yeah. Well, I guess that's a topic
I
of
did want to touch.
conversation.
Did want to touch real quick on the Reagans. Obviously we talked about him before the show started. He's a weird pitcher to judge so far this year. Uh, so like obviously we talked about he's pitching to over a 5 ERA, but to me the craziest stat is like when a big stat with pitchers is their expected ERA, and a lot of times your expected ERA is going to be higher than your ERA depending on your defense. Just kind of a luck of the draw thing, how players barrel up the ball and stuff like that. I mean, his expected ERA is 3 points lower than his actual ERA. So it's like, but it's weird because then you could be like, oh, well, guys really aren't hitting the ball hard against him. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily true because although the barrel percentage against him is low, like from a number standpoint, it's low, it's his career high. So, like, 8.7% barrel percentage against him is his career high compared to his previous 3 years when he was in the sixes. his average exit velo off of him is 88. So like, it's weird. It's kind of just a weird thing for him, you know. I haven't looked crazy into like his home road splits on his starts or anything, but obviously he's a great pitcher. I saw him in person last year uh, at the stadium, the game where Jazz hit the walk off infield single against him, but he was nasty. He's, I mean, he's another kind of deception. He doesn't look like he throws hard, and then he'll just pump in like 98, and you're like, the fuck did that come from? But like, he's a really solid pitcher. They got him in the came over in the Rangers trade they made a few years back. Um, but he's just been, yeah. So his like underlying numbers are like misjudging. His the numbers that jump out at you that you see when you look up a pitcher stats are like, oh, like this guy kind of sucks. But then like his underlying numbers, you're like, wait a second, no, he doesn't. But then like you're like, wait, but that stat doesn't look right. And then you look at the other stat, you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. So he's kind of a weird story. But I won't. When I think about him, I'm not thinking about his stats this year. He's owned us. He owned us last year. Pretty much each time he faced us, and in the playoffs. So I think that'll be a solid matchup. I would probably
Yeah.
favor them on paper. Again, like I said, baseball's not played on paper, but going into that one, I'd favor them, just like we're favored tomorrow with Freed on the mound. But that's just my little
Another thing I
little
want
touch up on Cole Riggins.
one last point on him is his although he's only played 10 games this season, his strikeout percentage is in the 98th percentile, which granted it's not a huge sample size,
It's not, but
but
he's sitting your ass down most likely.
yeah, especially when you see he has almost 50% fastball usage over his 5 pitch repertoire. You know, it's
It,
impressive.
I will say this though too. Uh, 48 innings in 10 games. That's not. That's the number that kind of jumps out at me a little bit too, where it's like you started 10 games, you've only thrown 48 innings.
Yeah,
So
averaging sub 5.
you're essentially averaging 4 innings an outing.
Yeah.
That's just that's been kind of that was the number that kind of I was like, he's not giving him length. It's the issue. He's throwing a lot of pitches. So, but
Um,
I think it should be a solid series. A little
it'll
rematch.
be a great series. Some heavy pitching matchups, and offense is going to have to work.
Yeah.
And I guess that wraps up episode 1, Pinstripe Podcast. Anything you want to say to wrap up?
Uh, no, I think we're at a point right now in the season. I think Yankees fans should be excited. Comfortable lead in the AL East, and a lot of baseball left to be played. Trade deadline approaching faster than you know. Uh, Guys returning from injury, not Garrett Cole. Uh, Unfortunately, sucks. I miss my ace. Um, you know, Maybe guys getting released. Who knows? All future stuff. We'll cover on this show. So, glad to bring you guys a product that a lot of people are putting out, but we want to kind of separate ourselves from everyone else.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
a lot of baseball left. A
Oh
lot of
yeah.
baseball to cover for sure.
It's early, very early. A lot to cover, a lot to go through. Probably some surprising stuff come, later in the year, but we'll cover that when we get to it.
Yeah,
And I guess that wraps up episode 1 of the Pinstripe Podcast, and we look forward to bringing you more.
absolutely.